Rich Hilsinger, your host of Mastering Skills with Wooden Boat, joined today by Greg Bauer. Greg has spent a lifetime as a Finnish carpenter, cabinet maker, and boat builder. And Wooden Boat has been very fortunate. The past number of years, Greg has been the manager here of our boat building shops. In this episode, we're going to talk about stationary woodworking machinery. We're going to cover 4 of the basic tools that you may already have or are considering purchasing for your own shop. And we're going to talk about the proper safe use of them and also the maintenance. There's a lot to it.
To get started, you need to resize wood. So the 4 pieces of equipment we're going to talk about are kind of the basics in any shop. There's lots of equipment, hand tools, power tools, stationary tools. We're going to talk about 4 of the stationary tools that you would use to start the sizing of wood to get down to the size of the piece you need for the part you're making. We're going to start with the joiner. Our sample here is an 8-inch Delta. As we said in the intro, there's lots of good equipment out there by many manufacturers, new and used. Ours is 8-inch wide. I've worked in shops with 12-inch. I've never worked on one that's 16, but I've heard they're very nice. The wider they are, the more expensive they get. There's 3- and 4-inch tabletop versions that are about, half the size of this thing, which may be appropriate for what you're doing at home. This piece of wood is narrower than the 8 inches of my bed, so I can face joint this. A lot of times you're just going to edge joint and then do more work at the table saw and the planer. But in this case, we'll cover off face jointing and edge jointing. And then we're going to move this piece of wood over to the planer. So again, hearing protection, eye protection, and whichever push stick you're going to use. I prefer the ones that have the little heel on it. It gives me more positive lock on the piece of wood. This started its life with a rubber pad, which is disintegrated, and we put sticky paper on. It's a good way to hold stuff down. You want to try and stay against the fence when you can. Just running this, not so much for face joining, but when you get into edge, if you're not up against the fence, that's your reference square. That's your reference edge. So we'll do the face first and then come to the edge. One more. That again. Okay, so that's the face. So now we've got 2 good edges. You saw me every now and then wiping the infeed table. Sometimes you get spit back of the chips, and if you go to lay your piece of wood on top of those chips, some of them may be large enough that they're going to affect whether or not you're flat to the table. So that's what that's all about. But again, always making sure that guard's in place and you're not putting your hands near that the cutter head.